Hello, my name is Abatola Arugunade and I'm a third year doctoral student at Under Illinois University. I want to begin with the words of one of my participants. She said, I got to a space of not only protecting myself, but now protecting my clients from my supervisor. These were the words of one of my research participants, a black counselor in training, describing her supervision experience. Our words reveal something we rarely talk about in our profession. What happens when the very relationship designed to nurture counselor development becomes a source of harm? As our counselor profession becomes increasingly diverse, we are seeing more black counselors in training who navigate multiple minorities' identities simultaneously. They might be black and LGBTQ, they might be black and an international student, they might be black and disabled, or black with multiple intersecting identities. Yet, here is what shocked me as I began this research. The supervision experiences of black counselors in training with multiple minorities' identities remain largely unexplored. A scoping review by Tashish and Bayard in 2021 found only 21 articles addressing intersectionality in supervision across all mental health disciplines in the past decade. For black counselors specifically with multiple identities, the research is essentially non-existent. This silence represents a profound failure to understand and support some of our most vulnerable trainees. As a black international doctoral student who has navigated, clinical supervision with multiple minority identities myself, I felt compelled to break this silence. I designed this study using interpretive phenomenological analysis to explore how black counselors in training with multiple minority identities experience and make meaning of clinical supervision. My research question was, how do black counselors in training make sense of their lived experiences with multiple minority identities in supervision? Interpretive phenomenological analysis was the perfect methodological choice because it honors the complexity of lived experience while allowing exploration of how people make sense of their world. This approach is grounded in intersectionality and critical race theory, which together provide a powerful lens for understanding and experiences that occur at the intersection of multiple systems of oppression. My methodology was rigorous and systematic. So, with the full IRB approval of my institution, I used purposeful sampling technique and snowball sampling technique to recruit 12 black counselors in training who held various intersecting identities, including gender, sexual orientation, disability status, and international backgrounds. These interviews ranged from 30 minutes to at least 2 hours each and generated rich, detailed accounts of their supervision experiences. I even followed Jonathan Smith's rigorous 6-step IP analysis process and ensured trustworthiness through reflexive journaling, faculty auditing, and detailed audit trails. What I discovered through my research was both heartbreaking and transformative. 7 convergent themes emerged that were shared across all participants, along with 5 divergent themes highlighting unique experiences based on specific identity intersection. First, participants experienced profound cultural mismatches with their predominantly white supervisors. They constantly having to explain and justify their perspective in clinical supervision. One of my participants noted and said that they feel like a lot of times they had to explain themselves. That even though their supervisor get parts of it, they still fully doesn't understand what they are saying or where they are coming from with their life experiences. This led to what I call the burden of cultural translation. My participants performed double labor and simultaneously doing the work of counselors in training while educating their clinical supervisors about basic cultural context. And this aligns with what Mary Frances Winter said and described as black fatigue, which is the repeated variations of stress that result in extreme exhaustion. Francis Winter emphasizes that we must stop the one identity approach and understand the layers of identities that compound this fatigue. Another major theme in this study revealed how racial identity overshadowed other dimensions of intersectionality. So, while clinical supervisors might acknowledge participants' racial identity, which is obvious, other important aspects remain invisible. One of my participants, captured this powerfully by saying, it is like once you are black, other identities are hidden. And this reductive focus contradicts the intersectional nature of their lived experiences. Perhaps most concerning was the absence of cultural safety in supervisory relationships. My participants described environments where they felt unsafe to express themselves. For every one of the participants, this lack of safety manifested in physical symptoms. She got headaches during supervision sessions and felt numb during interaction with her supervisor. Think about that. Supervision was literally making these participants sick. However, when participants had access to black supervisors, their experiences transformed dramatically. They reported deep understanding, less need for explanation, and greater comfort discussing cultural aspects of their work. Unfortunately, participants consistently describe black supervisors as fortunate to have highlighting systemic underrepresentation. When formal supervision failed, participants created alternative support networks, often paying out of their pocket for educational supervision. The divergent teams, in my study reviewed how, identity intersections such as international status, LGBTQ plus identity, gender, and disability created additional challenges. Unique additional challenges requiring tailored responses. This demonstrates that while black counselors in training share common experiences, their specific identity intersection create distinct supervision challenges. These findings represent a groundbreaking contribution to supervision literature. This study, I think, opens an entirely new frontier by empirically examining how multiple minoritized identities intersect in supervision experiences. We can no longer assume that supervision is inherently beneficial, because for these counselors, supervision could also be harmful and produce not just psychological distress but also physical symptoms. So I believe that we must move beyond passive cultural sensitivity to actively engage in intersectionality in supervision. As Francis Winter once said, then is now, which allies the systemic racism that demands urgent attention. We need to recognize and reduce the double labor these counselors perform and create genuine cultural safety and dramatically increase representation of black supervisors. While my research provides important insight, the findings may not represent all black counselors in training or apply to all supervision settings. However, the consistent themes across participants suggest these experiences require urgent attention from our profession. This research also reveals the systemic failures that compromise both counselor development and client care. Because when we fail to adequately support black counselors in training with multiple minoritized identities, we perpetuate inequities and miss opportunities to strengthen our profession. So, the participants have shown us the cost of continuing as we have, and the possibility of what supervision could become. Their voices, I believe, demand that we transform supervision from a space of marginalization to one of genuine inclusion and support. The choice of which future we create belongs to all of us as clinicians. Thank you for listening.